If you're anything like me, I'm not lucky enough to have an in-ground irrigation system for my lawn. Now in the past, I didn't have the luxury of setting the irrigation and just letting it do its thing. I've been the guy dragging hoses around all over the lawn and setting timers on my phone to remind myself to go out and move them, which is a total pain. Sprinkler timers weren't an option for me in the past due to a leaky hose bib, but when I got that fixed last summer, I picked up a digital sprinkler timer from Melnor. If you want to learn more about it, check out the video in the corner above for more information on that sprinkler timer that I use. Now it was a good start, but this season I decided to fully automate my watering and do it for far less than what I would have cost me to put in an in-ground irrigation system. Stay tuned to see how I did it. Now my lawn is about 7,500 square foot, but I only irrigate from my pine trees forward to the street. So I'm only watering about 5,500 square foot of the lawn. Now depending on your property and layout of hose bib locations, you can adapt this strategy to fit your needs. Here's how I accomplished this for my own lawn. The biggest thing I did was assess what supplies I had. This included what kind of sprinklers that I've already had, what kind of hoses that I already have, where my hose locations were, and what areas I needed to cover to determine coverage and placement. Now I made a simple map of my property, knowing what sprinklers would cover what, and planned out what I needed to accomplish in relation to hoses and other sprinklers that I may need to purchase. Now to better meet my needs, I upgraded all my sprinkler heads to Rainbird rotors on spikes last season. Now these are the same type of rotors that are used in an in-ground irrigation setup, and they best simulate that in-ground irrigation setup. I also found that they screw into my Melnor bases, my sleds from my prior Melnor sprinklers, and even my tripod, and which made them even more versatile if you don't want to use the spikes in all areas of your lawn. Now these things have fantastic coverage, and the variability of water flow and patterns makes it easy and very versatile to use around the lawn. I spent a little extra money and went with all 3/4 inch hoses to ensure that I had full water flow in all spigots around the lawn as well. I've linked the hoses and sprinklers that I use personally here in this lawn. If you're interested in checking them out, check out that description below. But I will say, depending on your budget, just purchase what you can afford. You don't have to go out and buy a bunch of fancy stuff. If you already have sprinklers and hoses, use what you got, save some money, and you can still accomplish most of this plan for your own needs. Now here's a map of my property. With the Rainbird rotors and knowing what they cover, here's my placement. To cover the entire lawn, it takes 8 sprinkler heads, 7 of which are automated. The one on the bottom right is something that I have to water manually by just placing the head there when it's needed. Other than that, the hoses are laid out around the house and in the landscaping beds, so I don't have to move them, which makes my life much easier. The only one that I do have to move is the one out front by the street, because I can't leave the hose lay over the sidewalk all the time. But this is as easy as just putting the hose out in the sprinkler head the night before I want to irrigate and reeling it in when I'm done. Now with my water pressure, I can run one Rainbird head at a time for 1 hour to get a 1/2 inch of water on that zone. If you have questions on measuring your irrigation output, check out the video up in the corner above in relation to lawn irrigation that I did last summer and how to accomplish this. Now knowing that output tells me that I can run each zone for 60 minutes 3 times a week, supplementing rainfall to achieve 1.5 inches of water on the lawn per week. Now this can be adjusted depending on the amount of rainfall and water needs that your lawn has. Now I set my timer to start at 3 a.m. in the morning, with each additional zone to run on the top of the hour. By 10 a.m. the entire lawn is watered with 1/2 inch of water, and I had to do nothing besides set the timers and put a few hoses out on the lawn, which is a huge win in my book. Now I will say, with all the hoses and the timers that I have in this setup, I've probably spent about $400 to $450 on the entire setup. Now this is extremely less than what I would have spent to put an in-ground irrigation system in, and it's pretty much automated the watering around my lawn, making it less of a chore for me to get water down on the lawn, which makes the lawn look better throughout the season. Now I will say this isn't a perfect setup. You're still going to see hoses around the landscaping beds. I did the best to try to hide them as best as I could, and I still have to manually water one area of the lawn and pull out the hose and stuff and physically do that area. But I will say this pretty much automated about 95% of what I did. And 2 of the zones, I just have to pull a hose out the night before when I set the timers and pull the hose back in when it's done. So it's really cut down the amount of work and messing around I've had to do with the irrigation around the lawn. I would say if you're manually watering your lawn and you want to make this setup and watering easier, I would highly recommend using some variation of what I've went over in this video in relation to sprinkler timers and setting up some heads around your lawn that you don't have to mess with moving around. This has been a real time saver for me and made it much easier to water the lawn. And if it's easier, let's face it, you're more likely to do it and keep that lawn hydrated in the summer months. Now, if you're interested in any of the products that I've discussed in this video, check the description down below for more information on them, and also the videos that I've discussed earlier for more information in relation to irrigation and sprinkler timers. Now, if you found this video helpful, hit that like button, drop a question or a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. And please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time out in the lawn.